Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 569th episode of the GeekVerse podcast. I am the Kenergized Trasnell, and I'm joined by.
I'm Ken's friend Kirkland Patzer.
Yeah, I gave this one the 69 because I feel like it's like technically you recorded it, in the opposite way of Oppenheimer, but I feel like Barbie is a bit more
It's
has
very
that
fitting.
69 energy, But who knows? I'm sure Oppenheimer threw his fair share of 69s back in the day.
Oh yeah, I learned a lot in that movie.
Yeah, just having PTSD about the bomb while some woman sitting on his face, I'm just like, that's great. They know the bomb, the bomb. But yeah, go check out our Oppenheimer review. It is Barbenheimer weekend. Yes, we delayed a little bit as we talked about before on the After 9 this week at Sunday PST 10 a.m. We were way of saying it, but we're going to tell the whole story of why these were delayed. So we apologize, but you know what? A little bit of my error and a little bit of more life error. I'm going to blame the life thing because we could have been maybe a few minutes late, but the life error thing was really, and then it was a whole chain of events for me and Kirkland. But we are here. We're going to talk about those two movies more. If you want the full review, me, Dylan, Kirkland just did that. Everything you need to know is down below. And yeah, we're going to get right into it because late night and everything. So yes, Kirkland off air is giving me shit. I post my letterbox. I usually wait for the review. But yeah, so some people may know. So that's what I'm going to throw over Kirkland Patzer because, like I said, I saw this movie at 9. I guess we can start there too. I saw it at 9 p.m. Thursday. I talked about this quickly on Trash Told You. One of the greatest movie experiences of my life. It was a packed theater here at 9:30. There was about 12 boys and girls together. They got together. They're wearing pink suits, head to toe, like even the girls. So many glasses, custom shirts, so much pink. I felt like I had some pink. I was like, man, I didn't wear enough of it. Like, it felt like there was when the fucking Mattel and Warner Brothers and Barbie logos came up, people were cheering, clapping. And the movie, the end, people were cheering, clapping. It was a fucking very fun time. The vibe was just hella good. It was. I ended up because we'll talk more about the story. I ended up just sitting next to a group of probably 14 to 16-year-old girls, which was like, man, what a way to see this movie. But even then, it was still a good time. It felt like there was no judgment. Everyone was just there to see Barbie. And we talked about Oppenheimer. What was your Barbie theater room like? Was it
Yeah.
full vibe, etc.?
Yeah, so I saw this 11:15 in the morning Saturday. So like basically day after the regular release, 2 days after the early release. And yeah, normally I see it on that early release, so I'm used to seeing just everyone dressed up or like for, if it's fitting for the movie or just the packness. And I feel like that energy is usually there for the Thursday viewing, probably the Friday viewing too. And I just kind of assumed it was going to be just because I saw this one with my parents and then my mom bowed out after Barbie. She didn't want to see Oppenheimer, so it was just me and my dad
That's
for
fair.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
So I was with my parents on that day, which was fun. It was a good day. But still, Barbie was an absolutely packed theater, but it wasn't that sort of demographic that you were laying out. It was actually like just a lot of like families. I feel like a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
like older audience, which I was kind of surprised about. Like like elderly folks. There was a lady that had like her little daughter like next to me. She was probably I would say under 10 for if I had to do a safe guess. And yeah, like I don't know, like I was kind of just surprised on how packed it was, but it wasn't that like Barbie crowd that I was expecting. Like the tweens, the teens, the high schoolers, and even just like the people in their 20s. I feel like I didn't have a lot of that. There's definitely people on dates, couple like guy dates, just the boys going out to see Barbie, like the memes were saying. There definitely had those, but it wasn't just like when I dropped you off for Oppenheimer on the Thursday chaos day. There's people wearing suits,
Yeah.
like the Barbie memes. Like I didn't have any of that in my theater, but still it was very very crowded. So it was cool to see. Just again, like I was shocked. It was 11 o'clock in the morning, but still we're selling out the movie in that sense, which is just great. But yeah, yeah, just had a good time. A little bit different than yours.
Yeah. Well, so as usual, we're gonna do our non-spoilers, talk about that. There was, as says, there was 10 guys cheering like crazy whenever Gosling was on the screen. Yeah, there was like Kirkland said, there was the Barbenheimer. Someone did the meme where they're in full suits and then they had Barbie hats and glasses. And he was very odd because they were in front of me for Oppenheimer and there were two girls. And then when they saw Barbie, the two girls were not with them anymore. And they were in the very front row of the movie. But then when the movie was over, they threw their hats and stuff. So I wonder what happened to those girls. They were like, oh, I don't want to see fucking Barbie. I'm here for an Oppenheimer.
I'm here
for
for
that
historical drama.
Yeah, not this shit. it. But yeah, non-spoilers. We'll give you a warning, then we'll get into spoilers so we haven't seen it after the weekend. But Kirkland Pass, I'm very curious, especially because already I see our Discord is, I won't say mixed. It's all mixed to pause, but there's been a couple hot takes in there. So I want to
Yeah.
see, Kirkland, where are you on Barbie?
Yeah, Barbie. For the Barbenheimer comparison, I was
Mm-hmm.
definitely a lot more excited for Oppenheimer. Not that this trailer or like anticipation for this movie wasn't exciting. It's just Nolan's my guy.
Yeah.
I mean, check out that review. You know, I had expectations for that movie, so I was super super jazzed for that. And the fact that I was seeing Barbie first, it was almost like I go to see the drive-in, and there's like the movie I want to see, and
Yeah.
then I have to get through that first one, and like that kind of sounds negative to it, but just the expectations were lower for Barbie. But yeah, hot out the gate, I truly truly love this movie. I was so
Hell yeah.
surprised as to just the here we go, yeah, big applause. I was just so blown away with like what they did with it. I think this one, it helped that I didn't look too deep into exactly what the storyline was going to be, or just the moving pieces. I knew it was Barbie obviously, but just
Oh, you mean
like
beforehand?
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
I thought you meant.
What do
I
you
thought you
mean?
were like, I didn't really pay attention to the story
Oh,
like,
no,
while
no,
you're
yeah.
watching it. I was like, what a
Like-
glowing review! It's like turn your brain off and you'll love Barbie.
Like I saw the trailers that we talked about on
Yeah.
the newscast, but I didn't like research as to like what the motivations of certain characters were, or what's going on in the movie. I knew it was going to be plasticky with the Barbieisms. I knew that there's a real world in it at some period, but I didn't know everything in between. And it really just made me enjoy it because yeah, I just sat down and just was totally engaged from start to finish. I think the humor around it was just really really great. Like, man, my mom, like, I don't see a lot of movies with my mom, I see a lot of movies with my dad. My mom was like that loud laugher, but it wasn't even like she was being obnoxious. Like, she was just like getting other people laughing, I feel, because like it was truly like humorous in moments, but maybe like she was like the igniter for it. Like people were kind of finding it funny, but the fact that she was just having such a good time with certain scenes, it was just uplifting the whole crowd. So yeah, like the overall mood of the theater was super positive, and yeah, I just had such a fun time with it. I feel because actually, yeah, when we were leaving, my mom asked me the specific question. She's like, "What was your favorite thing about that specific movie?" And I feel like I like it was tough to say, but like just right from the get go, I just think it's like the attention to detail that they had for every little detail of making it plasticky, or the world, like the Barbie land, to just every little detail on like the Kens or the Barbies. I just thought all of that was so masterfully well done. Of course, there's the story stuff that we'll talk about later, and just the personal things that Barbie goes through that just really really surprised me as well. But I just think the thing that I'm gonna remember the most is actually just the plasticiness of it. And of course, like, that's something that we were kind of praising in that initial trailer. But I just it just I couldn't believe that they like did it, like just the way that certain people were standing. It just like they really took that plastic doll ism, and just took it from that version onto the live action screen, and they did just such a great job. So yeah, I really really love this movie. I just want to talk about it with so many different people too, of just certain details or certain story stuff that happens. So I'm excited for just more people to see it. But I mean, it's doing crazy numbers, so I don't think it'll take long for
No.
the whole world to see this movie.
Biggest opening of the year, be it Mario, which I did not have on my bingo card. But yeah, like some people probably know my thoughts a little bit already. But if you don't, this was my most anticipated movie for the year because there was just the three reasons why I got knocked out is because one, I love Greta Gerwig. I like the original Little Woman enough, but I love that addition. Love Lady Bird. It's like, okay, she's directing great. And then when we heard Robbie as Barbie and Gosling as Ken, it's like, man, these are just perfect casting. So I had high expectations. All the trailer hit it for me, and movies can. It's interesting because we just did Oppenheimer, right? And there's so much where I'm not going to tell you this is like the best movie ever. I'm not going to tell you every single joke worked for me. I'm not going to tell you there's not things that it hasn't done before. Like, yeah, there's comparisons to maybe Wreck-It Ralph or Lego Movie. But I think what this movie has going for it is it's for me, it is Greta Gerwig's sensibilities, but it also just when you're talking about the plasticness and all that jazz, it is the first until there's a certain line dropped in this movie. It has a sheet of plastic over it in the best way, where they do such a good job of making this world filled lived in. You never feel like it doesn't take me out of it, even when you start to get okay, it's in the movie world. I just was in awe the first 20 minutes of they go for a vibe and they do that the whole, and it continues the whole movie. Like Kurgan said, once you get real world, other things you start to evolve. But I could have just watched a Barbie Land movie, like, and that's where I thought, okay, that's gonna be to get us to the preface of the rest of the movie, the storyline, but the details, the way they had these characters act, the writing, the jokes, and this movie definitely comes down to a lot of the humor works for you or not. Majority of it worked for me. I think this felt like a Marvel Endgame for people that must have been Barbie fans because there's references all over. There's some I got, some I didn't. I thought it was just like you could feel the love of Barbie in that world, but it's one of these movies. I can't describe it. It's what I talk about. It's something we just talked about, Dark Knight. There's just certain movies where it's movie magic, and when you're watching it you go, all these pieces, I don't know if they're the best pieces around, but they just fit together so well that I absolutely love it. And that was the beginning of this, where it's just like, and we've talked about many times this year, but when I see this I'm just like, man, these are the type of movies that this gets me excited that we're making movies and stuff like that. Like it's just like it's so, and that's the best thing is about the cast, they all commit so hard to it. It never takes you out of it. It does, like, it just works so well. It feels to me, and that's why some people might not, it feels like those old SNL sketches that shouldn't work as a movie, but it does, and this one does. I love everyone in it. I think there's certain like little critiques I have, but nothing that would take it down for me, really. It just is a movie that I will watch many times in my life. It is a good go-to. Like, I'm going to put this on, have a good time. Gosling just fucking knocks out of the park. He has to do a lot with this, and man, he is just so damn good. And Robbie, because I know Ken's going to get a lot of the praise because he has the Flash performance, but she has to do a lot of nuanced stuff. She has to do a lot of things that she doesn't get to do, the big emotions like Ryan Gosling. And I feel there's lots of funny, Oppenheimer had this too, but this movie has a lot of like Terrence Malick moments where there's just quiet and things going on, and I would love, like, it felt very artsy at times. That's where, not just artsy like, oh, the production value, there's just like a scene, which I'm sure people have seen the trailer, of Margot Robbie and this older lady, which it's funny because that's a scene that the studio wanted them to cut, and Greta fought really hard for that. And it's this scene that's so quiet and there's not much dialogue, and it's just Barbie, it's Myers, but taking in the world and having this conversation. And it is stuff where you got the big flamboyant scenes out there. If you want to just watch this for a fun time, it's there. But at the core, I feel like it's what you and I liked about Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's what I like about Time, where the back half of this movie is really about life and appreciating it. And there's very many Matrix moments to it, and we'll get to it. But I think it has a great message as far as what you got to take in. And yeah, life not all the time is going to be rainbows and roses, and you're not going to have a tough time, and you might cry because you don't know, maybe you just had a hard day. But that's the whole story, is maybe certain characters rejecting that motion. Like, you need that to appreciate all the rest of the good stuff, and that's where they use this plot, this plastic doll who's experienced emotions for the first time, is that kind of conduit. And I had a great time. This is, I might be spoiling stuff, but John Wick was my movie of the year for March, and then Oppenheimer knocked it down, and then Barbie knocked it right down. This is my movie of the year so far, and it met my expectations, luckily, because I had a lot of high ones and I was worried. I knew there was a lot of praise, but yeah, I'm very excited to talk about it. So anything else you want to talk about, non-spoilers, before we get into this?
No, I don't think so. I was listening to the bit of the soundtrack.
Oh my God,
there's
yes.
Some really, really great songs in there, and a couple that like I had already heard of because of just, like the Billie Eilish song. They had the like the Aqua remix.
Yeah.
I quite like that one too. So, but like there's a great Tame Impala song too that came out when they're going to the real world. Just yeah, fantastic artist. So yeah, I really like the soundtrack.
And that's where, to me, it feels like a movie event, like the old days where you get those songs that were themes made for the movies, and this is like a whole album. And yeah, luckily for me, it's a lot of like Charlie XCX, like it's a lot of people, of course, Dua Lipa, but that's the only one I'd heard. The rest I waited for the movie, but for me, this is a bullet for at least a nomination, Golden Geese, because it's like it's not just like it's like the males can enjoy it too, but it's a female version of Spider-Verse where you got a bunch of great people
Yeah.
working on this, and their songs all specific towards the movie. It's not just a bunch of there's original songs that are on here. The album's fantastic when you listen to it start to finish, and there's a couple songs from Ryan Gosling, and my god, there's one in particular that just had me in stitches, and I can't wait to get there. So we're gonna talk about Barbie, spoilers full on, so we'll be right back. If you haven't seen it, definitely go away because there's fun surprises in here, and we'll be right back. And we're back. So I'm going to pull Kirk and Pastor. I do just want to start with the beginning, like the first 20, 25 minutes, because up until that moment when Robbie does and we see this from the trailer, like, oh, does anyone think about dying? And that's when it all starts to shift, right? She wakes up in the morning, things aren't perfect, things are changing. But for 20, 25 minutes, like I told them non-spoilers, I love they just committed to this. This felt like a Barbie episode or movie. I love, there's some stuff we saw in the trailer, but just to me, it's when it was all paced together, the float down from the house. And it just reminded me, I tweeted this out, but it reminded me of how people talk about Avatar. There's that, there's a joke in 2009, 2010 that there's an actual study of people who were depressed because they couldn't go to a place like Pandora. And that was me with Barbie Land, because like, man, I just want that's why to me this movie is such a good time. I just fucking want this place to be real. I want to go there where they're just dancing, having a good time. There's like these musical beats. It's just such a happy place at the beginning. So that's why I love just they nailed everything, because the trailer, it looked great, but once you're in the world, I feel like it feels different than the trailer because there's just certain music cues and the sounds and the way people act. Like it just had such a great world building aspect to it, which is still tough nowadays. So many people try to do that and the world feels fake, and I think it's great that they actually built lots of these sets and they help that way. But even then, sometimes set builds, like it's hard to create a world and believe in it. And I loved everything tenfold in the opening act of this movie, meeting the world. Helen Mirren was a great addition too, as far as just even the fucking opening. We saw it in the previews, but just the idea of like the girls and the dolls, and you got this big Margot Robbie showing up, like just everything about that opening. It just drew me right in. I'm like, okay, we're in good hands here. Like, Greta's not failing me wrong here.
No, I was grinning ear to ear in that opening scene. Just everything with Ellen Mirren as the narrator. I was just so enamored by the attention to detail and everything. Everything's so symmetrical, and it's just perfect because that's what Barbie Land is. And they 100% committed of just showcasing. That's where in like the non-spoilers, I was just saying, like, they just did such a good job at taking the Barbieism and just throwing it on the big screen. And like, although they're real people, you don't think that they're not Barbies or like super plasticky in that sense. And they go a little in like the comedic, making fun of it sort of route, but like not even really, because they don't really break the fourth wall. Like, it's just Barbie being Barbies in those moments. Well, I was getting a little bit sensory overload when there's just like, hi Barbie, hi Barbie, hi Barbie, hi Barbie. But like again, it's just like, what am I expecting? This is exactly what it is. It's a Barbie movie. So I just love that, and how it was all perfect to just introduce us to this world. And then of course, we start having issues the next day, and like just because we just had the perfect version of it, it's like a stark contrast to when we go to that second day, and just everything is not perfect, and it's getting worse and worse. And then that just kind of sets us up for our journey. But I love the opening so much here, and just introducing all the characters. I loved basically everyone that we met. They were just, like you said earlier, they brought their A game. Everyone was 100% in it.
Yeah, you got, we saw it before, but Dua Lipa's The Mermaid is like that, and then Michael Cera throughout the movie is pretty good. Because I was actually unsure on Michael Cera when they first cast him. I was like, okay, he brings a certain type of comedy. I like Michael Cera, but I was like, is he right for this? And he ended up being right for this. They made the right call there. But I was even because the beginning you don't get much. It's more near the back half, but he was used well. So.
He got a lot of laughs in my theater.
Yeah.
And for me, really, I feel like all of his humor was really hitting with me. It just, I don't know, the more it went on, when he was just feeling like the outcast, just Ken's friend, Alan, and there's just one Alan. He's like, it's like, why even is that?
And he just wants to get out of there. And I love he thinks he finally has a ride, and then they have to go back. And I just love the juxtaposition of, you get the scene where he has to kick all these guys' asses, but then later on, like, and this is why and this is where I've heard people say it's a dumb movie. It is, but to me, I don't know the way to. It's all I can say is, like I said, they commit to the joke. I 100% know why I like this, and this is for anybody. And S-Bubs, you gave it a higher rating, so maybe it's different for you. But this reminds me when I was younger and I saw Zoolander for the first time. It's funny, it has Will Ferrell in it, but it's just that everybody in the world acts and thinks and talks this way, and you gotta buy it. And that's where I've seen many movies where that happens, and it's not like, here's one, and like you and Taylor share this. For me, like Napoleon Dynamite, I think they do that, but it just doesn't hit me. I don't return back to it that much. And I feel like that's what where this is for, not a certain type of people, because lots of people are seeing it, but I feel like to enjoy it really, it's a certain type of world. So when he has that scene where he kicks all those guys' asses, right? And then cut to about 10, 15 minutes later when they're recruiting everybody. Oh, S-Bubs, you're going to get banned. If Zoolander was good, get out of here. Zoolander walks so this could run. I know you're going to say Teen Beach Movie. You got to rewatch it, my friend. But anyways, he kicks all these guys' asses. And then later on when they're stealing on the Barbies, there's this moment where he's in the cafe and he can't climb over the fence. And he's trying to decide, like, should I put a chair there, climb or not? And you would think this guy, Alan, who kicked all these guys' asses, should be able to figure out how to get over this fence. But he can't. And I fucking just love when he's like moving it and he's, and they're like, Alan, come on. And it just... that's where you gotta commit, and that's where if you don't like that, I could say, yeah, don't return this movie. But all the Alan stuff, it did work for me, and all the and man, again, I was trying to make it even, but the one that commits the most is Gosling. He just fucking nails this. I know why that's why people are like, oh, really? Why is he getting Oscar nomination talk? Because it's like we've seen so many people do this type of the dumb jockey role, but man, he does this to the nth degree. There's something different every moment. This guy is never not acting. When he's in the background, when he's looking, when he has to say certain things, when seemingly Lee's bugging him about the bet. Just he feels like a 4D dimensional person. He does not feel like, and that's the best thing. Even Robbie to an extent, especially because that's my favorite thing is Robbie. Like that's why I will fight for her in lead actress. I've seen a lot of people go, oh yeah, she's good, or like, oh, I want more of her, which I understand, but how much crying this woman has to do in this fucking movie is, and they're good scenes, but the both of them really deliver. And again, that's where I guess for me it was different, because when we get that actual scene of him like, oh, can I spend the night, and she says no, they let it play for 15 seconds longer than it does in the trailer, and Robbie is so good at just this look of dumbfounded, has no idea that Ken wants to stay over or really loves her, and just talk about how it's girls' night, and she'll go, and Goss like, oh no, sorry, I got plans tonight. I wish I could. Like just little dumb lines, and every night is girls' night, and Cyndi Lauper hits. It's, oh man, I can keep going on, but I'll stop before we continue.
Yeah, with just because we're talking about the hot goss here, I feel like that was something that I was extremely like unprepared for in all the right ways. Like I knew he was in here, I knew he was Ken, but like man, he just brought it in such a different aspect that I was not expecting. Like all of the overact, but it's not even overacting. Like he met what was required of him, and what was required of him was a lot, because he shows so many different sides of Ken. Was not expecting the twist where he just falls in love with the patriarchy and tries to bring that to Barbie land. Man. But just like the fish out of water aspect of him when he is in the real world, I found all of that hilarious. And just like the super pathetic version of Ken in the early days when he's just so obsessed with Barbie. And like we did see some of that in the trailers, but and like I didn't even love it in the trailers. I just think I was shocked as to what I was seeing, and that was that. But to actually have like 2 hours with the film and to experience with the character, I was just pleasantly surprised by how much I actually enjoyed it, because like he is a big story part of this movie, and all of the humor for him like 100% hit with me. I love all his outfits. And, like to your point, like even if he isn't saying anything on screen, even if she's in the back, like he looks like a Ken doll in the fact that like he's just totally engaged with what's required of him for what his character has to be in that moment.
And you talked about, I guess we can go there first, because there's other like Barbie moments I want to show up, but when they get to the real world, and this is where it works for everybody, right? Because it's, again, you see this stuff in the trailers, but I thought the pacing of it in the film was just different, just felt different, it flowed, and there's just things that feel like events. But they get there and they do the classic, like, okay, they're gonna hit on, the men hitting on Barbie and kind of ideas that we thought was going to happen. But man, when it's just like, oh, it looks like people respect me here, and there's certain jokes all throughout, but when he gets to that building and he sees like the like just like a video for men, it's like he's getting every knowledge of what men and all the and it's just maybe because too I think some other people can go, I won't speak for Kirkland, but I feel like there's for me, I'm not a guy that's I never have liked trucks, and I've never like so like all the things they were doing here were showing things that like I've never been to like the man thing. I think they hit the nail on the head of like what's considered like when they just show horsepower and like he gets so confused about all these things. I like later on I was like, I just want the horses. And when I found the patriarchy had nothing to do with the horses, I kind of lost interest, but like just this semblance of this is what men are. And for me, I thought they did a good balance of they hit on three themes here where one is, yes, this idea of course, women being held down. And we've talked about this many times in life where they talk about the CEOs and the guy when he's like, oh, the patriarchy. He's like, yeah, well, the patriarchy, like we don't really talk about them in public, but it's around. It's just a lot more hidden and secret. And like, Ken's like, oh, really? And stuff. So you get to hit on those issues. To me, and you talk about with Ken and Barbie, it's a smaller storyline, but it is in a sense the same way I talked about Birds of Prey as a breakup movie. It is in the sense of I think we've all been in the situation both ways, where either you are attracted to someone more than they are to you, or vice versa. And they do it in a Ken and Barbie very toy, plastic sort of way, pun intended. But there is that message there at the end of like, hey, like, yeah, I love you, we can be friends, but this is not the way I feel about you. And Ken just actually getting that news, it hurts him at first, but he kind of gets to be relieved. And then she gives a conversation like, you got to go find out about yourself, And that's where I feel like I've been in that situation too. Like, you get that. And then the third one is because I saw Hansi and Clay going back and forth. This is where I guess I get their point because Clay had brought up like, oh, like the idea with the Mattel people and that storyline doesn't really get resolved. I think the reason I read that the way is so you got Barbie Land where it starts as just Barbies, right? And then it transitions just to Ken's. To me, Barbie Land's supposed to be that the idea for the world where this is what we're supposed to strive towards is the men and women working together and the issues aren't resolved. And that's because I don't think there could be a resolution because to me that's where it would feel cheesy or that's what would feel non-believable because in the real world there's still not a resolution for this movie. Just be like, oh, in Barbie world and real world they just solved all the issues. No, there has to still be a bunch of work that has to be done. It's not the even them like what was it, Simi Lee's Ken being like, oh, could I get a robe? Be like, well, you can be like lower than that, but maybe one day you can get there. I all the like I said kind of you had the fun movie, but all the themes they were hitting worked for me. And they used them in the guys as jokes. Like the Ken thing was a joke of him becoming a man and taking it back, but they got to parallel real worlds. And what I loved is because I know we'll probably talk about in Golden Geeks. I don't know if I could put him in the villain category because he refers back to the beginning where we jumped off at this point where Barbie doesn't let him in and she doesn't realize how much that hurts him because for the whole first act she is always undercutting him. She's saying like kind of rude things to him or doesn't really want him around and you can see his feelings are hurt and she doesn't pay any attention to that at all. And finally in the second half she realizes, okay, I could win about this much better. So
and like even if she wasn't aware of his feelings in that moment, doesn't mean that it didn't hurt him, to just not even be aware of those types of feelings. But just all of the social commentary things with just bringing up the just like the women's stuff, the women's hierarchy, I guess, in the chain, and just how much they've been just in the shadow of like just like the men's world and hitting on that 100% hit for me. I was again, that was something I just wasn't expecting in the movie. I was coming into this, I was just thinking it was going to be a Barbie movie. Like I had no idea what to expect. So all of that was a big surprise to me and on a big pleasant surprise though, because although they do go into the more comedic stuff like you're saying with the Ken and just horses and horsepower and trucks, and it's just like I don't even know if it's the most stereotypical like men type thing, but I can still identify that like that is a stereotype of men, so it works for the film and portraying the story. But so all of that was like comedic, but it didn't go too far in the sense of just feeling like they're making fun of the issues. Like it still is important, and I think that was just a really nice healthy balance that they found, and I just think that's a really great trait of like Greta Gerwig to balance that important social issues type things, but also make it in a like not even balancing it with the comedy side, which is important. It's more so just like combining everything to just tell a really good story, one that's really easily digestible. Because you can tell a story that's super super important and dry as hell, and nobody
Yeah.
wants to watch it or read it or whatever it might be, right? So I just found that to be very very surprising, because like I think a lot of people out there, they find that very interesting, but maybe they wouldn't seek out a certain project for that reason. But Barbie is just, it brought people in, and then to have like a really important message at the end of it, that was something very shocking to me, because like by the end of the movie, like I was almost in tears.
Yeah.
It got to that level of realness, and I just wasn't expecting that by any means. So they surprised me in that sense, but it was all pleasant surprise.
And that's why, to me, I felt like what I liked about the most. I'm sure, of course, I imagine some red eye thumbnails out there. Maybe some people might feel it's preachy, but I feel they did a good job at the men and women both get jokes at their expense in a fun way,
Yeah.
right? And then they both get their moments. That's why I think they did a good job of, they could have just made Ken the full out villain, take over, you defeat him, then he kind of gets a little sad at the end. Like the way of him portraying that Robbie or Barbie, of talking about how he, never feels noticed and his feelings are hurt, and you wouldn't expect a male character to maybe express that, right? But that is a true thing. It's not like men are, that's like a stereotype of the old days, or like what Oppenheimer is like, you're a man, you're supposed to act this certain way. And that's what the fun thing is. It's Barbie that's in a fake world, but they're almost portraying the men as that older type of aesthetic of men, of, okay, well, their feelings wouldn't get hurt and they wouldn't care about the girls doing this, but really they paint Ken in a certain fashion where, to me, I know some people might say like America Ferrara's speech about a woman can't do this and can't do that might feel preachy. I think it would be if you didn't have Ken get to do those same things earlier. And Ken gets a full fucking music number for that. Sure, it's a musical number, but that's what his number is. It's talking about how he doesn't feel appreciated. And if he was, Ken, if he wasn't Ken, he'd be a 10 anywhere else, right? It's just in a musical comedic form. But I think for, America Ferrera and like Barbie being the leads, you need them to be in a more serious, because it wouldn't have fit the same way for Barbie, who is going to transition in the story to go on this journey, for hers to be a musical number or jokey, where Ken, he gets to do that, but you get to have some sort of actual meaning behind it. So I guess that's why I just felt it was, and Greta Gerwig and her husband, they wrote it together, but I just feel like I just felt like it was a good two-hander. It didn't feel heavily either way, because each time there would be a joke about a man, there was a joke about a woman, and it was usually Barbie not getting it, and they had those jokes about, hey, if you hate Barbie, you'll like this movie. And I feel like they did that, because I love the opening line when Hellman's, oh yeah, Barbie was created and then world peace happened. There was never a woman's issue ever again. And it's all these things of, I felt that's the other thing that people talked about, how they felt like, oh, it's, the messages are maybe kind of, bland because they're from Mattel. But I was the actual opposite. I was surprised how many jokes they cracked at the brand's expense and Barbie's expense, and they're just kind of in there. And there was, I guess, apparently there were some things the studio did try to get taken out, but Greta, same thing, said, hey, this is in here, I'm not making this movie. So I felt that there was quite a shots taken at the doll and the brand and the idea of the image of the doll. And even though if they're trying to help, they haven't really, like the scene where she goes to talk to the little girl and they list all these reasons why Barbie's bad, and body dysmorphia and all these things. And
Totally.
Robbie, great job, can just cry on cue and has to walk away in her cowgirl outfit and stuff. And man, Gosling's cowboy outfit too is just ridiculous when he's going around the school and stuff.
Yeah, and again, like all of that stuff with like the Mattel and just the Barbie things, everything that you're saying there, I completely agree with it. It 100% hit with me in all the right ways. I was just, because I think I was like, they didn't go as hard as maybe like a Ryan Gosling type take would have gone, but they went further than I was kind of expecting when it comes to at least like having the discontinued dolls, like the pregnant doll, or like just like those ideas. Because I like heard about those types of dolls that were just they came out discontinued, bad idea, but the fact that they're in there and they're making jokes about it, I thought that was surprising, and I really enjoyed it. And just, I mean, like even just having Mattel as this like super corporate bad guy type character with the movie. Of course you have Will Ferrell on the board of directors, but I just see it as like the one entity as Mattel. I thought like they weren't a big part of like the overall story of like just Barbie's journey, but I still liked their inclusion of it for sure. And and then like get to the body dysmorphia and like the darker side of the Barbie thing. Like yeah, having like the little girl comment on all those things, or even just when Barbie is becoming imperfect and she's starting to get like the cellulite in her legs and she's just
Oh
like
my
confused.
god. Yeah.
I like all of that stuff, man. I just ate all that up, and I'm like, man, like this is such a special movie. To your point earlier that you're talking about, like just certain movies have that specialness to them, and when they were getting all those things like just checked off that I wasn't even expecting, that's where I was like, okay, yeah, this is a special movie. It's more than just the live action Barbie movie.
Yeah, which I feel like is the easy route to go. But oh, I love that when Barbie's like, "Oh, what's gonna happen if I don't fix it? Oh, this is gonna happen." And and then that's where I always like. Obviously, I still got to see with other people. That's where I think I always get the good barometer because it is again. It felt like they were making jokes, but it's not. And this is the best way to say it. It's not a hey, let's laugh at someone that's bigger or let's laugh at someone that doesn't the most attractive. It felt like they were making, and just based on my audience, it was majority. I'd say 75 to 80% women, and they were all laughing at these jokes that someone might go, and maybe it also helps that, it was written by a woman, directed by a woman. And that, to me, that's what it felt like. It feels like when we talk about so many times when you can tell whether it's a character with sexual orientation, when you can tell that someone's directed it and it feels like they're trying to encapsulate, like, oh, let me talk about, like, and I'm bad example, straight white man, but just like, let me talk about like what a woman goes through for her life. But I just feel like with the audience I was with, it's like, okay, I'm laughing at this and I think this works. And I feel like the people that are watching with me feels like it too. It never felt like it was poking down or jabbing at anybody because you're dealing with Barbie that is the doll that's like the perfection, like that idea they talk about of like what a woman should look like and all these ideals. And I think they did a great job. And yeah, big shout out to Kate McKinnon, who I feel like many directors, they see her on SNL and they want that, and she just comes in as a kooky character. But I did like at times she wasn't. Not many. I'm not saying like, oh, she gave the script performance. No, like I think it was a very fun performance and she got to be serious. But we've seen that trope before of like the used toy. But I thought there was tons of fun. The way they paint her as like a weird person. That her place almost felt very if Tim Burton directed a Barbie movie, but then they changed the color from black and white to this. Like just the way her character acted, always doing the splits and the good conversations there. And again, that's where it's very the Matrix vibes in this movie where, yeah, again, that's not the most original. We saw that in the trailers, right? The shoe and the sandal, right? Yeah. And even when you're talking about the end, that's what I love where that's the choice. It's the same as Neo's, where do you want to live in the fake world where everything goes well and you get your steaks, but it's fake, and then the real world. And that's what I love with Barbie, where like all these people have had these revelations, but she's still not happy. It's like because she's experienced these emotions. That's where I love that. We talked about a lot with Everything Ever All at Once with Evelyn. It's like, sure, there's this life where she's a rock, movie star and a superhero, like all these lives where she has rich fame and fortune. But there's this one life where she has her husband and her kid, and sure, they work at a laundromat where all of it's going to crap. But you get to feel the real emotions there, and that's where the people are, and that's what and this is the difference where this is what she wants that because she's had like a little taste of it, and everybody else, and who knows the other. Well, I guess Ken did get a chance in real life, and he's fine to stay, doing his thing. But Barbie doesn't like. It's like she can't go back to that. She can't go back to this illusion of what Barbie Land is, even though she fought so much to get it back that way. And that was the scene where you meet the creator, and then at the end, when it's just very quiet, and they're in like this heaven-like state, and it's very again, I don't know how many Terrence Malick films you've seen, but they're very artsy, and they're just quiet, and they're zoom ups, and they use colors different ways, and there's just something about where I wasn't. All the trailers for this movie seemed very loud, so I was never expecting scenes that were literally dead quiet. That felt like they had no breathing, no nothing, and it just you got to take a second to like slow down. And again, I think that comes down to Greta, where it's like certain other directors wouldn't make those choices. They would just make I just want to go in the real world, but it's like a 5-minute scene, and when they play it, that Eilish song plays really well because I hadn't heard it yet. I just heard it was slow, and everyone was like, "Why is this slow song in Barbie?" But then when you get in the movie, you're like, "Fuck!" Like I'm feeling it right now. It's
100%. Yeah, no, I good shout out there because those quieter scenes, again, like those were the ones where I was just getting a little choked up, feeling emotional, and just was surprised because of the scenes that I'd already seen with Ken being ridiculous, the other plastic Barbie moments throughout the film. But like to get to that point in the film when you're like, because she goes through a legit existential crisis, and like it becomes so much more than just this plastic doll. 100%. So I was just completely shocked in that moment, again, in all the right ways, because it just made you have like your own kind of introspective thinking, like in those moments. Even though like I'm not a female, I'm clearly not a doll that going transition to a human, but I just feel like they brought up things that maybe a certain type of people would be feeling, but it speaks volume to so many different just individuals out there. And
Yeah, and then they bring up things that all of us can. Yeah, they bring up things that like that's not what the scene about that's happening. Not the very end, because it's a great line of the movie, like what the build up is to Barbie's in the real world and what she has to go to, and like I'm here for my gynecologist, like such a, because you're like, what is it, job interview, a date, like it's such a good, and then that happens, and again, it's such a fun line, but what she's going through in that last right before the scene that we're talking about with the the crater and the heaven like statement, that's not a gender specific scene. That's any like whether he, she, they, them, whatever, you don't have no pronouns, like that is just a human being scene of, again, what we talked about at the beginning. It's just like you're just scared in life, and sometimes life sucks, and sometimes you have these emotions that you don't want to have. But then that comes with all the good stuff, and that's what she wants. Where the other people, they're still kind of fine to live their life. And Ken, he's had a tough couple days, so he's just happy to maybe. But that's the whole thing with Ken, right? I think we've all been in that moment. I think you've even talked about when we did our 8 year of like, not saying the podcast made you find yourself, but we've all been, whether it's a couple years a year, where she just says like, you gotta just find like. He talks about where it's never just Ken. It's always Barbie and Ken. And she points out like, well, then that's what you have to do. You got to find the Ken in you. You got to find what that means to be Ken. And that's just this huge revelation. A man, again, when he goes down that fucking slide, he's like, wee, like everything Gosling does, man. It's just like, he's just comedic timing. But we'll take an ad break and we'll talk about some other favorite moments and scenes. So we'll be right back. And we're back.
Just getting back to like the Matrix red pill, blue pill thing, but it was with the shoes. Yeah. I absolutely love that scene so much. You mentioned it was in the trailer. Was it in the trailer?
Yeah, even the scene where she goes, "Yeah, no, I'll pick the shoe," and she's like, "No, you got to pick the sound." Like, no, I want the shoe. Okay.
Yeah, I did not remember that at all. Mm-hmm. So for me, that was just absolute gold. Yeah. Specifically too, because I finally for this year I bought my first pair of Birkenstocks, and I've just been like praising. Like I'm like, man, everybody needs to own these shoes. They're the best shoes. They're super expensive, but the most comfortable shoes ever. And then what she compares them to is a fucking Birkenstock. Like right there, I got it right here because I got my evidence because I pulled it off my foot. Because I wear them absolutely everywhere because they're the best shoes ever, and I just love that she was showing the super uncomfortable high heel to like the Birkenstock. I was just laughing out loud because it's like, man, like I praise everybody, or I spread the gospel on Birkenstocks every single day, and here they are in the Barbie movie. I love it.
And what is she wearing at the end? Is a pink style,
the
those,
Birkenstocks,
right? Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's a fun callback. Yeah,
I'd have to get myself a pink pair. Although
absolutely, I saw those. I was like, oh yeah, I'll pay the price. I know there's already been like, man, I'm ready for all the merch for this movie. Yeah, I'm ready for a good time there. So
no, 100%, and just like again, like Barbie not wanting to even deal with the issue there. I like the comedy when she's just like, no, I'll take this one
because she thought Kate
I wasn't
McKinnon's
giving you an option.
She thought ugly, which again, fun thing that we're sorry called you ugly Barbie behind your back and face. Every character says it that way, and then they apologize at the end, and they're just gonna call her Barbie, and now she's like on the Senate, but she thinks she's just gonna go there, fix her mistakes, and no, you got to go on this whole venture. Which, very again, all the jokes about it looking like Bo is afraid, but I love all that. Even in those little montage, she's like being like shitty to Ken because Ken has to do all this stuff. But we were talking earlier about when he sees the man stuff and everything, and obviously. I didn't think that was coming either. I never thought that. So when he goes back, and then I know, okay, he's gonna turn the whole town. I'm having fun with it. I think this is gonna be great. And they get back, everything's torn. The girls are cheerleaders cheering for the volleyball. The whole Brewski joke, that was good stuff. But this is where, to me, this just felt like for the theater, it felt like I was back in Endgame, No Way Home, Spider-Man. I don't know why, but when they go to the Barbies have created the plan that they're gonna turn on the Kens, right? Make them turn on each other. And earlier in the movie, you heard the song "Push," but then you go on the beach and it's Ryan Gosling singing "Push," and all the Ken just no, I will. That to me is like when we talk about Creed or like when we're talking about Call of Duty, like songs that were in that era. Hinder, that's a fucking song. We're like, man, that is like a man pop song personified right there. And Gosling's just going fucking hard. And this is where people can be in and out of the movie. that song they just let him go. It's like three, like I thought, oh, you're gonna get a little bit of it, and then the scene's gonna happen. No, it's just gossip. Oh, I will, and just they're showing all the reactions of Robbie. They show the other guy. They show fucking Gravik playing the drum version. Like, yeah, it's just, that's what I love. Like they just let the scene play, and I completely understand if it's not your humor, you're not in for it. You're like, fuck, this scene is long. I'm not finding it funny. But for me, when I heard the few notes of that song, like, oh my god, Gosling's gonna sing Push, and it just to me is in that era of these are men type of songs that are kind of rock pop songs, and it's just like they just nailed to me that aesthetic of what the stereotypical men of kind of certain generations, and that was a highlight. And I was like the whole theater, but I was dying. That was my moment of the movie. He's selling it so good, and then when they start to turn on them all, and they're all mad and seeing what happens, but man, I was fucking dying when that was happening. And again, that track is on when I listened to the album on Friday. They have a whole song of him doing that, and I was like, fuck, man, it was so good. I can't wait to use it for a music league at some point. Man, it was that was maybe the peak laughter for me, was that.
Yeah, I love that scene. For me, it was like when I mean, I feel, yes, I've heard that song. I don't have deep nostalgia or anything for it, but I can definitely identify it as that song that category that you're laying out, just that men's song. Because it just reminded me of like different type of songs like that that I can.
Because they have that similar note and similar beats, like all in the 2004 to 7, they had like same like there was a way to make a hit song, and that was it. Like Creed did them, and other ones. So
yeah, no, 100%. But I love too when like their plan is to just make them turn on each other, and they just like show no interest, go to like a different Ken, and then like the new Ken just gets all intrigued, and it's like they're fucking robots. Like they're just they don't understand what's happening, but they're all reacting the exact same way that you'd predict. And just like the look on like Gosling's face when he just realizes that he's losing Margot's interest. I was eating that up. That was hilarious.
And again, it's like real world stuff where it's like to like a huge out of this world degree, but it's, that's a trope in shows, but just even in real life of the women, they get together, they talk these issues out, but then how do the men decide to solve their issues? Well, they're going to just have a fucking big war at Barbie or Kenland at this point, right? Like they don't even talk. They've just decided that the lines are drawn. You got Sue Lee's one. And we saw that. The only thing we saw in the trailer was that wide shot, but the actual battle, man, tons of fun. The fucking like sticky, like arrow and you're like, oh, like taking off. Like that, again, that's all the exaggerate, like, oh, I'm really hurt. And then like he's just back to being normal. Again, they all committed. I was having a great time, and then that finally leads to I can't remember what it was recently, but I was just talking about some sort of meme on our story where it's just like, these guys fight together, and because I think it's the meme recently going around of crap, I can't remember what it was, but people, it's like, how did you become best friends with your friend? And it's like a shot of a movie TV showing them just beating the shit out of each other, and it's like that is a very boys thing where boys are just very more like just physical, and that's the way it is where they want to combat each other, and then at the end of this they like sing a musical number and they're all together, but then you just have Gosling like, do we have to vote today or something like that? And then they just realized like all the important stuff was to the side because they had to fight and just see who was more Kenley and who was more man. And it just, again, I love that battle set piece, everything. The musical number was great. It's all, and again, production design of all, when you talk about visuals for Golden Geeks, this for me will be on there because real world stuff is what it is, but all the Barbie Land stuff is top tier production.
That's another, like, I just can't wait to rewatch it for those just noticing things in the background, certain characters, way that they're interfacing. Yeah, I was shouting out just the attention to detail and like building the sets, but also just like the choreography. Because like when they say action, like there's so many moving pieces in that beach sequence, and like it's gotta go how it was planned. And they did a great job at executing it. It was very easy on the eyes. There's so many just like pastel colors, very very just the classic Barbie colors, but and so many just weird objects, whether it is just like those like suction cup arrows or just various boxes or whatever they're throwing.
Sparkles whenever there was dancing like at one point when someone was getting choked and they're just like, oh, and like all those sparkles were coming out. And that I watched it was the first swim, it's the whole movie, but the first swim, it's like, man, this must have been one of the funnest shoots to do ever, to have that set. And I feel like that's easy to get in the mode, but that helps a lot opposed to like some green screen room. And I feel like this must have just been such a good time, especially if you're just like an extra. This is a movie I'd want to be an extra on, when like it's not on you, but you just get to be around. Oh,
And just like coming to like work and like you see these sets, like you're never gonna be working on another project like this again, probably,
No,
with just
no.
these Barbie sets.
I was gonna ask, how did you feel about the? Because I feel like that's some people probably. How did you feel about the like Mattel business aspect of it? Because obviously
Yeah.
that's the plot, and again, they don't treat it as like, oh, it's the first time this happened. It's like the fucking Men in Black, where they know this can happen. They know the toys can come
hmm
out and do stuff, and they gotta wrap them up. And how do you feel about it?
For like the world building aspect of it, I guess, of just knowing that there's like this Barbie land out there, and like they don't really explain like the science behind it or what's going on. But like for that, I absolutely loved it. I don't need an explanation
No.
as to why these people are out there. It's like Elf, like it's just another place. And
Yeah.
even Will Ferrell's character says that, right? He's like, just picture it's like Sweden, and just leave it at that. And then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, it's just a place in the world, and
Yeah.
we'll just live with that. For
It's like
me,
Toy
that
Story. They never explain when the toys are alive. They're just alive, and you're like, okay,
yeah,
that's the world we're in. The toys are alive.
it
Cool.
it completely works. So yeah, for the
Yeah.
world building aspect, I'm completely happy and satisfied with the way that they did it. And for the business side of it, I feel like I really like it for the most part. My only like holdbacks would maybe just be like they didn't go far enough in that direction,
Mm.
but I also kind of understand because it is Mattel's property, and this is kind of some of the things that Patreon Clay was bringing up in the Discord. I was just like they like I don't know. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it seemed like it was like they felt like they did enough on like on covering certain things about like just Mattel, like just putting women and objectifying them in the certain like just the dark side
Mhm.
of like the dolls and everything like that. And it, I feel like they did more in the direction of putting blame on Mattel than I was kind of expecting. So for
Yeah.
me personally, I feel like that's more than I was expecting, and I am glad that they at least went in that direction of, like we mentioned, the little girl, just breaking down all the terrible things of like setting back the women's rights movement like 50 years or whatever she said, like just for the inclusion of Barbie, and just how they're advertised as just Barbie can do anything, so therefore women can do anything. And like they even do that whole showcase in the early portion of the movie, right? Of just Barbie is everything, so therefore women can be everything about. And like so I like how that was shown. And then once you get into the real world, you see what it's actually like. And then when you have the Mattel businessmen just greedy white dudes like
Yeah.
that's everyone in the in the boardroom. And that's most like I don't know all the details about all the Barbie stuff, but like that's probably what it was like for the vast majority. And they even make the joke like we had one woman CEO in the 90s, and I
Yeah.
think another one at some other period, so that's two, so that means that we're doing enough. So
Mhm.
I do appreciate that they at least covered that. And when Barbie's trying to speak to like the woman in charge, because clearly there has to be a woman in charge, right? Because all we
Yeah.
do is showcase women like Barbies, like that. This like women is the main selling points, or is the product, so it has to be a woman in charge, right? So I did like all of that comment, but I can understand people's criticisms, maybe that they didn't go far enough, which. Yeah, I agree. I would have liked them to go more with that, because by the end of the movie, it's just kind of they were there. We needed like an antagonist for certain Barbie's or Margot's character specifically to interact with and to combat with. But I don't think that they were ever like the main focus of this movie.
No. Yeah. Yeah, and I guess
Said
that's
a
why
lot there.
I'm. Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, I think that's why too. I thought they're in it the right amount. I know they do disappear, but I guess it's just because I guess I'm just there for the Barbie and Ken journey. I feel like if they get too much time, that story could even bog down the movie even more. Because I feel, for me, and this is where it all comes down to different strokes for different folks, I was surprised how many jokes there was at Mattel. And I thought you could easily get a version of this movie with none of those jokes, right? Just about Barbie, the real world, and the sexes. That's about it. So the fact that they went that route and they let them do it, I was like, okay, that worked for me. And I feel like if they're in there too much, is either they're a third wheel of the story, which I don't know if I really want. I think they're fine as like little side villains. And then two, sure, they could go harder, but I feel like once you've already gone on them once, like how many more ways is there to really keep shitting on them? You know, like you kind
Yeah.
of, I feel like you get close, and this movie is only 2 hours, or it's just under 2 hours, just over something. But you could get close to just beating a dead horse, and it's like we all know Mattel, and we all know, and they do enough jokes about Barbie and the way the world is. Like, what more? You can just make that joke again and again, and that's the thing where I feel like they do it with the men and women, but they kind of find variations with it. Like even when you get back and it's Ken Landon, like there's different type of jokes. You know, the you know, whatever the day casa, whatever house. You know, all the little things you do there, the brewski stuff. Like I think I can't remember if I'd heard John Cena was the merman, but that was a fun little moment there.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, it was just like what I what they did surprise me, and then it was the right amount of it. I didn't need more of that because I just
Yeah.
don't know if more of it would have helped the overall movie, and I don't think it would have done anything that they hadn't already done of certain things, you know. And the only part I would agree with as far as like a critique that I've seen when I'm with S Buzz, but not enough to really bring it down for me because there's just such a so many good things, was the mother and daughter character. I think you could have got a little bit more with the daughter and a little bit more there because it's like they're so far apart. They go on this journey, and the daughter just kind of feels like she's just like cool with all this. At first, it seems like she's going to be really stern, but she's just in the background a lot, and then they're just kind of good to go at the end. I thought also the reveal that the mother was the doll holder was pretty. That was the only thing that was poorly handled because they give that away in the very first scene. Because it's literally they shoot down to what America Ferrera is drawing. It's all the outfits, and she's like, "Yeah, this is like depressed Barbie," and literally Barbie just like described herself as depressed. And I suppose that's an interesting point. Says I don't think you need the daughter at all. I'm trying to think if I think the only reason you do is because what they do at the end. I know I suppose you're making that joke about they're going to try and sell that toy, but I think they're trying to make it for also the demographic of this movie. Probably will be a lot of mothers bringing their children to this. So I think they're making it a mother character because if it's still just a single woman, they might make that case of, well, she's a single woman, she should still go out do these things.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to make the case with this mom that she has a family in her life, and now these things she wants to do or things she can't do is because of she has different priorities. But sometimes she needs these things. So I think that's what the reason why they added a daughter character to it was to appeal to that demographic, as far as the same way with Barbie, right? Where she feels like she's lost something, the mother character, in a sense, feels like she's lost her youth in a sense, and that's what the daughter kind of represents. I think that's what they're trying to go for, that's why she had a daughter, because it can be, when she's at the end, like, make an ordinary doll that's a mom that does all these things, that's great. You can't do that if you make an ordinary single mother, because or just a or
stereotypical Barbie.
Yeah, or just like single lady, right? Because they make that joke of they had the pregnant Barbie and no one won that one, so we discontinued. So I think that was the point, that how many Barbie dolls are there that are mothers, really, right? I think that's what they're going for. So
yeah, I can understand where he's coming from, because I feel like the daughter wasn't as important of a character as I was kind of expecting, but she also has a very integral role in the overall I guess just transition part of me that Gloria, being America Ferrera's character, kind of goes through, because we see her with those flashbacks of just being like a really happy mom, like majority of people, like the early stages of having a child, like it's just everything is amazing. I'm not a father, so I can't really speak to this, but just like
they're gonna turn on you at some point.
Yeah, but like in those moments, like it's the best thing ever, and they absolutely love you. They rely on you for everything, and then at some point, I mean, you're not there, Travis. You probably have horror nightmares about this, but just eventually they're gonna be in their tweens and teens.
Oh
and
yeah.
just not needing you anymore.
That's not cool.
They get annoyed with you, and then that's obviously like the pain that America Ferrera's character is going through in those moments of just kind of losing like her daughter in that sense, and then she is going through her own kind of depressive thoughts, and just change is really hard, and that's a really big theme throughout this movie. It's just like you don't want things to change. It's just when it's in your control is when it doesn't change, because it's all working out there, but like it's just a very unrealistic way of looking about it, because change is inevitable, and to fear it is you're just kind of kneecapping yourself in that sense, as opposed to just embracing it and preparing yourself for that change. And I really like I did really like, actually, like that little switch up, how we thought I don't even know the daughter's name. I can't remember from the movie, but like we always, or from the early stages, we thought that she was the doll I don't even know, the doll user, I guess.
The owner, maybe. I
Yeah,
don't know.
there you go, the owner of Barbie, but it ended up being America's. I what was her name? Yeah,
America
Gloria. So
Ferrara. Oh yeah, Gloria. Yeah, I know.
it sounds weird. It was America's doll.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I did like that switch up because it showed that it's not just like an angry or sad like teenager that's going through this. Like it is anyone. Doesn't have to be a male or female or any gender for that matter, but also not any age. Like we all are kind of vulnerable in that sense. So I really did like the use of Sasha, that's the daughter's name,
Okay.
for just that purpose, I think, of showing the mom in that vulnerable state.
Yeah, and I'm not saying too like you can't. I'm not saying because there's tons of people that don't want to have kids, and that's perfect fine. I'm not saying that those people can't have struggles or have moments because everyone has that. I had that before kids of like your life changes. I just think that with this being a movie that's about Barbie and that's a doll that little girls play with, that's why you have a little girl there. I think that you could have that same change, but especially, and this is what I was surprised about because I saw it and I knew me and Emily were going to see it, but I said, oh, the girls can absolutely see this because the humor that is inappropriate is very Shrek-like, where it would go completely over their head. So I think with that aspect with the movie, I think that's also another reason why you have a little girl there because the movie starts with what did little girls do? They play with baby dolls, and then when they become women, they play with Barbies. And I think that's why you need a little person, whatever, a kid character because it's not that single people or people without kids can't have problems. It's just that these are the issues that go with this, and this is the type of we have to show a kid that should be in the Barbies, but they're starting to grow out of that, right? They're in a new era of their life, a new stage, which also affects the mom. So I think that's why she was there. But I don't think SpongeBob is wrong. I think I could have used more of just their dynamic actually, because the thing is, they do the fake out, and then like I said, I knew it was America, and then they meet in the car, and then they're right on the adventure. They see Barbie, they grab her, and then they go. And again, there's not much. They're not after her. She works the Barbie thing. You could probably do that a little bit easier. They never really question why is America Ferrera Gloria after this. She's just driving, and she's not going to get arrested or miss any time from work and be in trouble. That's all stuff I can throw because we're in this heightened reality. But I could have used like maybe another scene or two maybe before the adventure began. We got the one scene of them being a little pissy at each other, but a little more. Because, yeah, Sasha, I feel like does kind of gravitate towards the back near the end. She does have some ideas, but I think you could have done a little more there. But I guess it wasn't a big enough con that really affected my huge enjoyment of it.
That's the thing. Like, I can definitely understand why. I mean, for myself, like I could just looking back on it, it's like I think there wasn't enough used with the daughter, but there's a reason why I just didn't even think about it in the time because that wasn't my focus for the movie. It was the other stuff that was going on. So I think it works for the movie, but if I had to nitpick, I could definitely pull that out of it. With that being said, I feel like something that I did have kind of, it's weird saying an issue with because it wasn't even so much an issue. It's just something that I noticed kind of took me slightly out of it was kind of near the end. I believe it's when we're in Weird Barbie's house and we're having just a lot of truth bombs coming out here. This is where we have Gloria America Ferrera's just doing that very powerful monologue about just talking about the state of the real world and just how hard it is to be a woman, in today's age, and just everything that they have to go through and deal with, and just it was very, very powerful, really well said. But like all that was really, really good. But I feel like that overall scene, and again, like you got to bear with me because I saw this movie before Oppenheimer, so there's a lot of things going on here and there. But I just remember like there was a lot of dialogue between multiple characters, and I think it is all in that specific scene that I just thought it could have been cleaned up a little bit. Like it seemed to be like almost 5 to 10 minutes too long for me for that scene. I feel like they just kept repeating the same. See, that's even the wrong way to put it. It's like they were getting to the same point with their dialogue between different characters and just like uplifting people, but it just seemed like we had gotten there already, and then they just kept going with it. Again, like maybe it's not even as bad as I remember. On another rewatch, maybe it won't bother me too much. But that was just something that I just felt like we were just kind of wasting time. It's like, okay, like I understand where we're getting here from, but like let's just go on to the next scene. Again, like I brought it up because I was kind of nitpicking the last sequence. So this was something else that it wasn't even just me like trying to find an issue with it. Like it actually kind of brought down the overall flow of it, because everything else I just felt was like very smooth. It was it was paced very, very well, but that particular like ending, it's not even the ending of the movie, but just like nearing the ending, I just thought we were kind of we were taking multiple vehicles to the same destination. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, we were kind of wasting time here. But I don't know if you felt that way as well.
It's funny. I feel like I gotta rewatch it because I do feel like the scene is longer and it is paced in a way where there's other scenes that are slower, but it is paced. It does feel like the movie halts for a second, but I don't know if it's like on purpose that it wants you to halt because you're getting these revelations, and this is the whole thing to talk Barbie up, right, and to get her because she's just
Yeah.
down the ground, which was very funny. She falls like a toy, and there she's on her face and
I loved it.
all good stuff. And again, like Margot's reaction to stuff, I think was very well. So I that one I have to sit on because I see the point, and I have to see when it's because there's that's also when we got the Snyder cut joke, which I was gonna ask. Did anybody in your theater laugh at that?
Yeah, a couple did. I mean, I was the only one in my row, but I noticed there was a couple people in front of me and whatnot. What about
I
you?
did like the delivery of the joke of I don't know why I would be like have these male feelings and be so obsessed with the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League, which I thought was great. I was surprised because I've seen other people say, "Oh, only feel." I had like 50% of my theater laugh, but
Okay.
I feel like it was the Thursday night crowd where you got like the film, like I said, you got literally people doing the Oppenheimer meme, so it was that. But as what says, that was probably the biggest laugh to a specific joke in the movie. So it's funny that I've heard a
There
few
you
people
go.
that had the same thing as me, like a big reaction. So there you go, you had that. So yeah, that scene I'll have to sit on because I don't think you're wrong. I just have to, because now with me being 4 days or 3 days removed from it, I have to see if that played well. But I do think they hit that they did hit the revelation of okay, the woman thing, and then the turning, and they did a lot of the kidnapping, but then you got to set up the stakes of okay, each Barbie's turn in this one's. But I feel like we kind of, like you said, got the point of okay, all the women are going to change. We don't got to see so many, but then there's some funny scenarios going on, and Emma McKay was fun in here too. I can't remember because she was dressed as a French maid. And she's like, I'm a lawyer. Why am I dressed like this? So
Yeah.
I guess that's the issue too. Where I have that sometimes maybe if some scenes were paced great, there's good jokes and stuff, and I think all the stuff that was happening with the Ken Dome and right, it was Ken Dome Land. That's right.
That's right.
Because it was a kingdom. Yeah, it's great stuff. But all those moments, as far as the revelations, and just when Margot goes to fake flirt with him, oh, just give me a second. And he's cleaning stuff up, and he comes in all charged, like, "Oh, what's up?" And when she asks him for the date, and he's like, "Oh, give me a second," and he's just sublime, and then he comes back out. Oh my goodness! So I think that's the thing that's where I need to. I'll fully admit that lots of jokes work for me, so I'll have to wait. Okay, on second and third watches when those jokes are hitting for the first time, how is this gonna vibe? But luckily, I like the majority of it, so. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
Is there anything else specifically you want to hit on?
Yeah, I didn't talk too much on Michael Cera's character, but I truly loved him. I thought all
Yeah.
the humor was fantastic, and just yeah, Michael Cera's great. Especially just like with how plastic and otherworldly like all this Barbie stuff was. He just kind of seemed out of place, but at the same time it's just Michael Cera, so it's like he was the most fitting to be out of place in those
Yes.
sequences. So I loved it so much, and kind of brought up Kate McKinnon, but I loved her so, like she was making me, that was the one that was setting my mom off. Like my mom loves Kate McKinnon, so she like 100% of the humor worked with her, like just her movements, even when she wasn't being like laughing. That's what I was mean. Like she's goofy, but she was just set my mom off, and I feel like my mom was just setting everyone else off. Like everyone, everyone was like wildfire. But no, she was chewing up the scenery, and just like you said, like the idea of that mistreated doll or like overly used doll or whatever it is. Like it's nothing too new. Like even the first Toy Story had those types of like freak
Yes, in
dolls that were kind
Sid's
of
room, yeah.
experimented. Yeah, Sid's room. So I just really liked her version of it. I liked like the jump scare moments when like Margot would wake up and she's right above her and it just shows like like the fucked up doll back to her, just like cementing the fear that she brings to these other Barbies because she's just so weird. I loved all that stuff.
That moment with the globe, she's showing it at the real world, and she turns in her face, and Mars, oh, yeah, you're right. I probably shouldn't have done that. Sorry, my bad. So, yeah, and I feel like same thing. That's why I think this is one of those movies where sometimes we talk about where there's movies we love and they're 3 hours, 3+ hours. Like, oh yeah, we can take more. I think maybe you could add like a little few things here, but this is one of those movies that's like a perfect. Okay, around the 2 hour mark is great because I think Kate McKinnon is in there for the right amount of time. Same thing. Michael Cera's in there for the right amount of time. They don't overstay their welcome. That's why I'm less harsh on the Mattel people too, because I feel like they're in there the right amount of time. I'm happy for Gosling and Robbie to get most of the screen time and everyone just be around them, because even like Simu Lee's Ken, like he's really good and really funny, but it's not like that had to be Simu Lee. Like I feel like Gosling and Robbie have to be those two, and the rest of the people are just supporting. So that's where it's just like it is a fun ensemble. There's lots of great other actors around. I really liked I think her full name is Alexandra Shipp, the person that used to play Storm in the X-Men movies. I really liked her.
Oh, yeah.
She had fun performances. So everyone had good stuff. I was just happy that the majority was about them. And yeah, Margot has to do a lot of just emotional acting, but I think that works as a character that's literally all the emotions are being injected into her, and she's experiencing stuff for the first time. And it's those quiet scenes. The first time we got that teapot scene, I was like, what the fuck is going on with the scene? I was like, I know the actor, like, okay, what are they trying to do here? And I thought, oh, is the creator? But I didn't know, like, would the creator be in this fucking room? And then how they chalk it up as Will Ferrell's just like, yeah, her ghost is in our building. It's like, oh, okay, fine. That's just how it goes. And her coming up. And so it's just like, I'll be excited to see how that's on a second watch. And, I liked the box joke of getting in the box. Like, oh, I haven't been in a box before. It smells so great. And,
very Toy Story again,
yes,
just the toy in the box. But yeah, no, I really liked that short sequence of Margot finding the creator, like in just that tea sequence when she's just freaking out and like the world sucks, these men are awful, all these things, and she just kind of like, not even so much like gives her the answer to like the hardest question of like how, like, what is even going on here, how do I handle this. Like she doesn't really answer that. She just kind of comforts her a little bit and just tries to show some light in a positive direction of like that outlook of life. And it's very, very brief, but I think both actresses just they showed more than kind of what the scene was telling, and I really appreciated it.
And that's what I like. It's like when now we know the context, but when you don't, it's just a weird scene. It feels that, and for some reason, the first scene when Ken runs into the wave, gets hit, and he goes flying, he lands, and everyone's like, "You okay?" Like, oh yeah,
like the car crash too.
Yeah, for some reason, those like we talked about Oppenheimer, but they felt like A24 when it's just like these weird things happen. You're like, what the fuck? Like I know the first one with Ken's more comedic, but just like stuff like that happens in A24 where weird stuff happens. You're just like, why do we do that? And then like either it makes sense or it doesn't work for you. Like I feel like stuff like that in Midsommar would happen. Where like this is just fucking weird. Like why like when it's just like someone eating the sandwich of pubes. It's like I get. Then they explain why, and Ken he explains there's a reason because he's just beach Ken, and oh fuck, I love when he bumps the lifeguard and he's like, I can't even beach here. Like he's trying to explain, well, the water, like, no, but I stay at the beach. Yeah, no one needs help at the beach, but it's like, yeah, but that's my job. And the guy's like, oh, sorry, man, I can't really help you out. Like that fucking montage of him going around the world was just knockout.
What do you mean I can't be a doctor? He's like, I just want to do a specific procedure. It's like, when can I talk to a doctor? I am the doctor.
Can I talk to a male doctor? No, we're just doctors. Oh, well, thank you. And then he's going to do his thing. And I found it was weird. The editing was a little strange. One little nitpick I had too when he went out and then he got back like just as Barbie's being arrested talking with the watch lady. It was a very kind of weird pacing of the scenes because it felt like he was somewhere else. But again, I appreciated him.
I agree.
I fucking love when he went to the gym or he saw the gym and just the dudes like clapping hands, stroking each other's muscle, and he's just like in awe, just seeing these men working together was such a foreign concept to him. So great, and Gosling just sells it all.
Man, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's see what else I got here. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really been talking too much about Margot because I mean, she's just so fantastic. I feel like there's only so much I can say of how great she was at being stereotypical Barbie, but no, she truly was just like a perfect casting for this, and she's I don't know. I think she's at such a high standard and like high like caliber of an actor that it just I expect it at this point, which probably
Yes.
isn't even fair,
Yeah.
but like that's also just the case. I loved the sequence when she's like, oh, like I'm supposed to be stereotypical Barbie, like I'm not perfect anymore, and she's got no makeup on, she's crying, and then it just
Yeah.
pauses, and Helen Mirren's like, obviously Margot Robbie was the wrong casting to portray this moment because
Yeah.
she's just fantastic. So I laughed so hard at that sequence, so because that was a fourth wall break, and there was a couple other moments with those, but they weren't too too trying to like mimic Deadpool in the sense of just only having the fourth wall break
Yeah.
moments. I feel like they did a good amount.
And that's still a good scene because yeah, it is Margot Robbie who's this very attractive woman playing this character, but that's not that's the point where it's Barbie feels like she has nothing. Where it's like, well, you have to just kind of look deeper, and you can have something. You just shouldn't give
Yeah.
up. So it's like it still works that it's Margot Robbie because it's just like, what are you talking about? Like we can figure this out, or this, your
Yeah.
looks aren't the be all end all. Just because you're prototypical or stereotype Barbie, there is more to you, but she doesn't feel
Yeah.
that there is, right? So
No, that's a really good observation too, because like so many times when people are like having those moments of like extreme self-doubt or like really
yes,
bad anxiety, depression thoughts, like it's usually so much more like multiplied in their own brains to like what
yes,
the
you
actual
put that
situation
on
is.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it's a Dark
exactly. Like
Kermit
I'm
meme.
not perfect. I'm not worth anything, but it's
Yeah.
like what do you, like no, that's not the case. And that's actually a good observation that I didn't really think about too much in the moment was yeah, it's a funny Helen Mirren drop of just yeah, Margot Robbie's absolutely beautiful. So clearly, her saying that she's not perfect, it's kind of hyperbolic, but also just like you could put anyone in that situation. So
Oh yeah.
I that's a good scene.
Oh yeah, no, it's good stuff, and that's where yeah, it's just because I feel it's funny. It's similar to Cillian Murphy, where Gosling, of course, he's gonna get the traction because it is a very flashy, fun performance. But we talked about this cheap plug. Go check out our Wolf of Wall Street retro. You could get another actress that looks identical to Barbie and has the looks, the blonde hair, everything like that. But then when it comes to those quiet, emotional scenes, like the scene where she is just looking around, seeing people just have reactions that like the friends that are laughing, the couple that's in love, the one guy that's depressed, we don't know what happened to him, but he's just sitting there very
Yeah.
sad, and then you see one couple that's fighting. She's just looking, and there's a good chance that fucking Margot Robbie, those people weren't on set. She was just like, hey, over there you see this, over there you see this, and she's having to give these reactions whether she's feeling joy, and you gotta do that because if you don't get an actress that is can't do that, it can come off as goofy or in a sense, no pun intended, but very plasticky, very just kind of okay. Be happy. You're happy. Be sad. It's the equivalent of oh, you haven't seen Pearl yet, have you?
Oh yeah, I have.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, when she has to remember that end credit of her
Yeah.
smile. Yeah, it's like that where it's just they try to do a scene kind of similar like that in The Idol, and everyone kind of meaned on them because like, oh, this is they're trying to be this, and that's to me where Robbie is that actress that has that ability to the quiet scenes and whether it's she always had it or whether it's just she's even better now, she can portray exactly what the scene needs her to, especially that scene with the creator. So much time the creator's like, oh, what do you want? And Barbie takes like 25-30 seconds before she like answers. Maybe I'm exaggerating the time, but it's not like a quick conversation like, oh, I want to be real. And it's not like it could just be like that. Okay, you're real. She's carrying a lot there. So that's why who knows what we'll do in Golden Geeks, but I would fight for it because I think it's very similar to Cillian or Killian. So it's just that it's at times a very nuanced, more quiet performance. You got to brain that, which can get lost. So
No, absolutely. I love when like they come to the real world and just the reality of just it's not perfect really sets in of just when she's like, I don't know what it is, but I feel very conscious of myself right now. Very
yeah.
self-conscious and just feelings that she's never experienced before, right? But just like how predatory certain men can be towards just objectifying women. It's just a good showcase there, especially from her perspective, of course, being a super attractive individual. That's probably, vast majority,
Yes.
unfortunately, reactions would be like to just seeing a person like that. Cause yeah. And then I also love too when she's I mean, it's pretty close to those moments when she's just like, "What even is this world?" She's starting to feel just these anxious thoughts, and then there's just like a random lady. She's like, "That's anxiety. I feel that every single day for
Yeah.
just XYZ reasons of just living in general. That's what I feel." So
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's a good little montage there. And Ken's the exact opposite of like, I feel respected here and actually noticed.
I'm gonna go to the library so I can see some trucks. It's like
Yeah.
patriarchy, just all like the dude bros books,
Oh,
and
what
then it
was
just
the
leaves the library.
wasn't the book with like why cars rules or something like, or why men
Yeah,
rule or something? There's some good stuff there, which is like
there is
again
good
you
ones.
might believe is like not believable. It's like there's that type of stuff around. So yeah. Anything else specific?
Um, I don't think so. Other than just like doubling up on like the musical numbers, all the
Yeah.
choreography was just mind blowing. Again, like these big actors and actresses doing like just very detailed choreography of all of them with, and like I'm like looking really intently. I'm like, no, these are all the actual actors and actresses. So
Yeah.
like all of like just the rehearsals that they would have had it done to just nail these. Like you shouted out on like the first perfect day with Barbie, and just like the disco sequence. Like
Yes.
fuck, like Margot brought it in those scenes. I
Yeah.
mean, I know she can dance. I've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You know, she can
Yeah.
bring it. But yeah, no,
That's where it's
I
like I
was
wish
just
this
blown
world
away.
was real. I want to be in this
Yeah.
disco. You know, everyone says it's too good of a time. So yeah.
All the
No,
Kens just watching from a
oh, I
distance.
know. Yeah. No, I don't have much to add right now. I think it's a movie that I'll have more to add Golden Geeks time, and hopefully because I'll be very curious when they watch them because I know with Taylor this is like a 50-50. I think he's either gonna be manna or like absolutely love it. Dylan's a hard cookie to crack because I don't know if where it will be, but I think some of the bigger themes might hit with Dylan, but you
Yeah.
never know. So, but I think we'll definitely talk about then. I know we'll talk about after time, but I'm excited to talk about once I've had more than one viewing and. Yeah, I think it's gonna be, and I guess I'll just go with my thought. I think it's gonna be interesting. I think it's going to be. It definitely is the event movie. Make jokes that it's like the most important movie of our lifetime, but I feel like it's going to be for a certain age of people. The way in our high schools or middle school for you and stuff like that, when people quote Step Brothers or Talladega Nights, like I feel like if you are in middle school, high school, and you are a young teen, this movie is going to be. This is going to be the movie that they quote for decades. I feel like jokes, everything. And what I appreciate is I love all those Will Ferrell movies like Step Brothers and Talladega Nights, but what I appreciate with this is there's multiple messages that are more than that. You know, I feel like it's something that where, and this is where I'm going to compare it. We talked about Oppenheimer a second ago, and I said that when Nolan did Dark Knight, that was his evolution. That was okay. Nolan's at a different level now. Like, look at the films he's doing, and everyone says about the comic book genre, he brought more to, right? It wasn't just superheroes and capes and cows and fighting. It was there's a bigger message behind the Dark Knight, and there's a grander scale to it. And I feel that's where it is. Where this is that summer fun comedy, you can go with friends, family, have a great time, but then there's way more beneath that on multiple facets. And this to me
Yeah.
is I liked Greta's first film, but I liked Lady Bird a lot. I loved Little Woman. I guess I could actually say I loved Lady Bird. It was a really good movie. And I feel like this though is her evolving. This is the movie where it's like, okay, now we're gonna get a different level. And I am still surprised that she's doing Narnia next for Netflix. I was surprised. I wonder if Netflix is gonna release it theatrical because it's kind of weird for me to think about now seeing this and if Greta directs Narnia and just being at home. Like I feel like that's something
Mm-hmm.
that they should do big screen. So maybe I'll talk about that. But now it's like, okay, it's the same way Nolan once he did Batman. It's like he still does like historical dramas like Oppenheimer, but they're this bigger scale now, right? And I feel like now with Greta, like now she's gonna go on to do Narnia. I think she said she's only doing two of them, but still, it's like I feel like now we're gonna see this grander scale of Greta Gerwig, and I hope that, and I feel like the same way Nolan hasn't lost what he did after Batman, that she doesn't lose what she did with all these smaller films, and I don't think she will. She's impressed me, and yeah, this is a classic movie. This is gonna be. I could see with a few watches, it's gonna be up there on my all-time list. I'm not saying like top 10, 20, 50, but again, it's one of these that when I want to rewatch something, if this is on a streaming service, like man, I could put on Barbie. I feel like I'm gonna always have a good time and a smile. I'm sure there's some actual emotional beats, but I like all that stuff. So yeah, it's everything I want. And again, it's also just that's a little bit of it too. It's just the filmmaking behind it, the sets, the production, the writing, the jokes, everything. Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. I always spoil at the beginning of the year. Right now, it's my movie of the year, and it could be beat. And I think the way I phrase it right now is this is my favorite movie of the year. Where I think Oppenheimer's like the best movie of the year. It's like a 1A 1B. But
Mm.
this is when we talk about Oppenheimer. You got to be in a mood. I don't gotta be in a mood for this. Is a mood where I'm in a good time. This is a
Always
mood.
in a
Yeah,
mood.
this is a mood if I'm in a bad mood. Well, I'm gonna put on Barbie and get those emotions out and stuff. So, but yeah, it's a 10. I love this, and it met all the expectations for me. Luckily, so I was very happy with it.
It's a 10 like Ken.
10 like can. Yeah.
Man, I love that song that he did. Very catchy. Definitely was in my head later on in the day. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, I really, really, really enjoyed this movie. I love this movie. I'll just say it. I got a lot more than I was expecting out of it. Kind of like how you summed up there all nicely. I feel like I got into it not expecting to get more of the deeper stuff, and I did, and I was very happy that it was in there because it just made it a more important movie.
Mhm.
Like telling people, oh, yeah, I'm watching the Barbie movie just because I love the idea of what it is one thing, but to like actually see the movie and get everything out of it that they're telling in the story that Greta Gerwig and the team told, I think it's truly an important movie and
Mhm.
just executed masterfully done. Like it was just all the attention to detail, like I was saying in the early portions of it, just is enough to make me want to rewatch this movie. But all the performances, all the songs and dance, and just everything about it, the comedy, the serious
It's
stuff,
got
I
everything. That's
it's
what.
got
That's
everything.
why it's
Yeah,
like it's the fucking the movie magic. That cinema. It has everything you want ever want in a movie. It has, like we said, like songs made for it. Just like it has this, like just it
yeah.
checks all those boxes. It's so.
No, exactly. So, yeah, although I do have like some minor nitpicks, like I was saying, just some of the pacing, with the end kind of sequence, I didn't love, and just some other things, like if I want to split hairs, I can see it kind of bring the movie down, but it's not enough to break it from a
Mhm.
perfect 10, like
Yeah.
Ken, 10 out of
Yeah.
10 on this movie, and
Ken
yeah,
and a Ken.
it's Ken out of Ken. It had
Hmm.
the Kenergy, and yeah, I just loved it. So definitely, I mean, if you made it this far, I'm sure you've already seen the movie. But
Yeah.
if not, definitely go see it. Highly, highly recommend.
Yeah, so no, I'm excited because I'm excited to fight for it in Golden Geek multiple times. Just need one more guy, but I don't know how those two are gonna be. It's gonna be interesting to see, but it's yeah, I'm happy with what we got here, and I'm happy too because this Oppenheimer, a few other movies, the first half of the year started rough, so I'm happy I've gotten a couple this summer. You know, we got Guardians, which was great, and we all kind of like like not kind of we all enjoy the Flash to a good degree, so I'm happy that the summer has been a bit more, Mission Impossible we got, so we've gotten some movies that were not disappointment or stinkers. So yeah, if you haven't checked out the I suppose, yeah, I did get the TMT Barbie crossover ad. Did you get that?
No, I did
Oh,
not.
really? I saw the
Well,
stream.
maybe I did, but I like
Didn't pay attention
classic.
to it.
I
Yeah.
I didn't. Well, I didn't get there right at the start time like I usually do.
Right. Yeah.
Although for
Yeah.
Oppenheimer, that was the earliest I've ever been because I was waiting. It was the exact same theater for both movies, so like the exact same
Really? It
seats.
just flipped over?
Yeah, no, like literally.
That's
So it's
funny.
like get out, stretch the legs, refill all my drinks and stuff, and that was like the earliest I've ever been to a movie because I think that one ended like 40 minutes before that next one started.
Oh
So I
yeah.
saw all the trailers for that one.
Oh
Which
damn.
Exorcist, man, holy crap! I know we're talking about it now, but like I was shocked by that trailer and to see it in that movie. I was like
Yeah.
scared.
Well, it's funny because yeah, they don't. That's not online yet. They're just pairing it just with
Oh, okay,
because same company. It's a Paramount, so it's the same company and
there you
stuff.
go.
So, or is it Paramount or Universal? It's Universal. Sorry, and yeah, that's why. So yeah, no, I liked it. Maybe we'll talk about it soon on newscast. But yeah, that's it. Let us know in the comments, wherever Discord, what you thought about Barbie. If you haven't checked out Oppenheimer and you've seen the movie or Oppenheimer review, go check that out. It's there. Big thank you to everyone that listened, and I promise you, it'll not be boring.
Bye bye.